Hey everyone, welcome back to Rock the World with Kay and Michelle. I'm Kay.
Michelle. Hi, I'm Michelle Turner from Movement Lesson. I've joined forces with Kay. We are here to talk about all sorts of things regarding being neurodivergent, special needs, however you want to call it. I am Movement Lesson. I work around the world. I just got back from Italy. Uh, yeah, working with special needs there and doing my neuromuscular assessment clinic. And Kay, she's back on the horses. Have you checked out her stuff? She's ready to roll.
Horse show coming up.
Yep. Um, Please, by all means, when I say she's ready to roll, don't think twice about following her, joining my group, Movement Lesson for Parents and Practitioners, and to continue or making your podcast experience or understanding why we're doing it or submit your topics. But
Yeah.
yeah, but you can see her on getting ready for her show.
Today, we're talking about a huge milestone that often gets overlooked, rotation. Whether it's rolling, twisting, reaching, or even just turning their head, these early rotational movements are essential for your child's development. The experiences we discuss on this show are for educational purposes only. Please do not substitute them for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. And if you notice any pauses during this episode, we ask you to keep listening. Sometimes, someone's processing their thoughts or it's part of the natural flow of conversation. Let's dive into what rotation really means and why it's such a game changer.
Absolutely. We are talking about rotational milestones really in the first year of life, but as we just mentioned, horseback riding. One of the reasons I even getting over the horses because I wanted people to understand what rotation is. Getting on the horse is rotation. What's nice about what they call hippotherapy, horseback riding therapy, but Kay has taken it to beyond that. She's presenting but what's nice about that is that the rotation made by the animal, the horse, right, goes into your pelvis, and that's what articulates movement into our bodies, and that's why a lot of people do it as a therapeutic process, but as well as, again, just for casual or for professional circumstances for riding.
Dressage.
Yeah. The dressage, and again, when you if you don't know a lot about horses, like again, but that ability for the horse to move has to come through your movements to get on and off, to get in and out of the bed, off the bed, to for me to point my finger. If we're talking about autism, all have to do with rotation. I just wanted everybody to just understand, and what it takes to move. I can stick my arm out all day long. It's not a functional movement. It's something I'm capable of doing, but I can't feed myself or dress myself.
No.
Nope, but we're going into baby milestones, right? There are seven key rotational milestones. It's natural delivery, where the baby presents out with a rotational spin. It's just necessary. Then we'll get into rolling over, crossing midline, grabbing the feet, right? Coming to sitting when they're coming from their back into sitting, right? Going from sitting to all fours, right? And crawling. Crawling are the big seven rotational milestones. Now you then have to rotate to get up to standing and walking. We're covering infant development, but hopefully you're going to get those ahas that, oh, maybe my child missed it, or that rolling transition is not happening for my child. This is what we need to work on. So we're going to be discussing what goes on, how to work with your child, but also what some of the red flags are.
Why is grabbing feet?
Oh, that's a big one. It's probably the most overlooked milestone. First of all, it most babies present to midline, come here, but then crossing midline. To cross midline, and this is where you will need work with, or that's what some of the things that to cross midline, you an adult can do this and cross midline, but a child's chest will rotate to cross midline. Right. And that's how it actually should be done. They put their, if they want something to the left, they put it down and they cross over. But that vestibular input usually does not happen because they didn't grab their feet. Grabbing the feet is the easiest way to do it, almost like a little basket coming together. Now, this isn't grabbing a foot, right? They grab their feet and now they cross their right hand to their left foot, right? First of all, it opens up the pelvis. I can actually grab my foot and roll up and sit up and roll back down like a bear. But a big thing about grabbing your feet, what it does, we have quarter of our bones in our hands and a quarter of our bones in our feet. There's 26 bones within the hands, the metatarsals and the metatarsals within the hands and the feet. Sorry, the tarsals of the hands. You always think of metatarsals, T for toes, in the feet. This is not about anatomy, but when you're grabbing the feet and grabbing, you're actually opening up all these fine bones in the hands. So for special needs, you'll get a lot. Well, my kid's not, you can't hold a pencil or is not writing. And they don't realize that I can guarantee you then they didn't grab their feet. It's a milestone that's meant to be had, but that ability to do this kind of movement versus just that grab and release. But yeah, that movement there, like almost like seaweed, is because a child grabbed their feet or that's something you need to work on with them because it has to do with crossing midline, but also the movements within the hands. So riding a bike where you want to just grab and not release, or those kind of things where that active passive muscles, almost like a cat doing that, stem from that. So you'll really see with autism as well that the grabbing the feet gets overlooked as a and it's not a milestone really on the US government. It's something that I present with. So it's a very important milestone, but very overlooked.
How did you discover that?
Oh, I was actually just talking about that today to one of my clients. It's to me it was really easy. I was actually going over I was reading a book on Einstein to my boys, and it covered the space shuttle. Now, I'm old, I'm 60, but my kids are younger, 24 now and 22. But the space shuttle wasn't familiar with them like with you. It didn't happen in your circuit of light. I'm sure you're familiar with the space shuttle, but when you're seeing this giant rocket and the way it went around the boosters, you really can see the rotation. So when you escape Earth, a rocket has to rotate. There it's rotating one way, and you'll see the arc of the rocket. And if you go further, it shoots around the moon, and it shoots around it uses these rotational launching pads. And all of a sudden I said, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter if someone has cerebral palsy or autism or Parkinson's or a stroke. The movement that is impaired either didn't activate or is impaired and is traumatized is rotational responses. So it doesn't matter. It does matter, but I mean, it doesn't matter that a child has autism or cerebral palsy or a genetic condition. What I look at is does that child rotate well? And when I realized this, I also realized that I naturally touched or applied my therapeutic process with rotation, right? That's the whole premise of movement lesson is rotational touch. So I was like, oh, this is why everything is working because again, just me touching my hair and doing all these things have rotation, but it matters for a rocket. You cannot oppose gravity. It's my first theory in gravity. You cannot oppose gravity without rotational responses.
When a baby starts to rotate, they're developing key brain and body connections that support reaching, crawling, sitting, and even speaking later on. This movement is one of the earliest forms of body awareness, and it shows that the baby is beginning to integrate touch, gravity, and vision.
Absolutely. They really need this movement from the day they're born in natural childbirth. Now, again, you're going to say, "Oh, my baby had a C-section." That's fine. We're not here to say something's wrong. We're here to say, and we're trying to bring awareness. There's certain key movements that your baby's meant to have. And if they're not being exposed to it, maybe because of an IV, maybe because they're still in the NICU, there could be lots of reasons. We need to introduce it at some time early on in their lives, because without rotation, um, again, if a baby can't, in a sense, grab their feet, right? There'll be delays in the vertical milestones. Like there's a progression, but
Yeah.
the movements walking comes first before you get language. Now I know Kay has language skills, but in Kay's defense too, Kay's had a lot of help with language, with her skills, with her motor skills. It's called therapy, right? And there's many
Yeah.
different of it within her lifetime, right? But for the kids who don't need therapy, went through this process naturally and they just started talking. You know what I mean?
Uh,
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 and that's the hardest part about being a parent, because we should be able to be playing Candy Crush and our kids just develop, and but without these key things, it doesn't happen. So way back when in 2016, I published the newborn movement assessment. Now this course is free in my movement lesson academy, but you are actually checking your baby, and they don't have to be a newborn. You can do this on grandma,
mm,
but you're checking for rotation. So if the rotation's not there or in areas of the body, and it could be due to a torticollis, it could be lots of different reasons, but when the rotation for some reason is not presenting, that's where you first have to start to work for the rolling over to start, and all gets coordinated. The vision, the rolling over. The rolling lets everything synchronize just like a ball. There's no beginning and there's no end. But if
mm,
I have, like, say, this cup, right? There's a top, bottom, there's sides. Yes, there's rolling here, but if I actually had a ball, right, or even this, I have my plum here. This plum, you know what I mean, and then again, all fruits rotational. You'll start to see rotation everywhere, but it's still a plum from all different angles, right? There's not necessarily a top or side or a bottom, and that's that neutrality that the brain needs so it can develop properly.
Your hip.
Yeah. My hip that needs to be replaced. It's taking my neutral away. It's taking my because I don't have the cartilage. It's torquing me. I can go on and on. Now but when I have to struggle to do a very simple movement like going up the stairs, not because I'm in pain, but because it's not functional anymore, that's what I needed. I knew it's time for surgery to come into place.
When we talk about rotation, we're really talking about the brain's ability to process movement across the midline. This kind of movement helps establish communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain, which is vital for tasks like reading, writing, and coordination. Rotation also supports bilateral integration, when both sides of the body work together. This matters not just for physical skills, but for emotional regulation and attention.
Right. Getting in and out of a situation is emotional regulation, but getting in and out of a situation,
Yeah.
it's just really is that simple. Rotation is more than movement. It's the body's learning to respond to gravity, right? Gravity we think is again, we'll go back to my favorite plum, right? That's gravity. Well, I'm not organized to fall down. I'm opposing gravity, and that's the way it should be done. Whether you're a plant or a tree or a human being or a cat, right? But it also allows a baby to lift their head, track with their eyes. Eyes are brown, roll to their sides, right? It's how the brain not only begins to learn, it's how the brain actually starts to organize.
Mm,
Again, through gentle spiral movements, patterns, however you want to look at it, most of all, you can't have development without it.
mm,
It's rotation is cognition. It really is that simple. Now, I can sit there and not rotate and learn something, right? But I'm already here. We're talking about a brand new baby and so forth. They need to respond to their environment through rotation.
A baby might roll to one side, reach across their body, or even rotate their hips while lying down. These early movements help prepare the body to crawl, sit, and transition between positions. You'll also see rotation in eye tracking, head turns, and shoulder or pelvic shifts. It's a whole body experience.
Right. Every movement that comes later, crawling, walking, talking, builds all of these early spirals, early rotations, right? When a baby can't rotate, again, can't. They might be limited to their environment, an IV or something, something like that, NG2, oxygen. I mean, it can be due to a chronic situation, or they're in a device too long. Again, this isn't, guys, I just want to say too, medical's there for a reason. It's there to save your baby's life. Don't say,
yeah.
oh, I'm not going to do cannulation because my baby's not going to rotate. That's not how. There's
Mm,
medical. You need to get your baby medical or your child, anybody stable, but there's also movement. You'll see this, like, say, in diabetic treatment
mm,
or after surgery. What's the first thing they say after surgery? Don't rotate, don't twist, because they want the body to heal. But afterwards, we have to bring it back. Otherwise, you're going like, I had shoulder surgery, I can't throw a ball. Well, no, because you just need to bring back the rotation. So when their body can't organize, then the brain can't learn, or the brain is stressing out. Right? This is, I believe, a lot of it is where seizures are coming into. Again, it's just that neurological stresses. And Kay will probably be the first person to tell you they show up more when you're tired. They show up more,
yeah.
or when you're in a stress situation where high fever, when the body's getting stressed.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, oh, let's be zen. Life happens. But rotation is the bridge between movement and cognition. It's the fiber. It's what brings everything together.
Let's talk about some common red flags. If your baby only rolls in one direction, avoids turning their head, or always leads with one side of the body, those are signs to pay attention to. Sometimes babies skip rotation altogether, moving straight into sitting or walking. But when they do, they miss out on foundational skills their body needs for later development.
Right. You'll see gaps, but gaps continue. I Some people say too, oh, my child didn't crawl and they're fine. And I'm like, yeah, but they have reading therapy. They had speech. Well, yeah, but they're fine. Again, they're still in a therapeutic process, which is their part of their environment, or again, getting the grades that they're looking for. Um, but rotation isn't just one event. It's a developmental journey that shows how the body and the brain organize through movement. And movement lesson, this is what I do. We track these 7 key rotations, right? And each one it builds upon the other. So there's a structure that goes in here. but you cannot discuss so the going into the red flags, we can't discuss one diagnosis without noticing that they have issues either in these milestones that we're talking about here or in the issue of rotation, however you want to look at it, right? All at the same time, right? We're catching this before it becomes a problem. So it's so important for parents and professionals, right, to know on that. So as Kay mentioned, right, you want to see your baby roll in both directions. But again, I want to catch it so you know the baby is able to roll on day one in both directions. And people say, oh, well, the baby's just born. You don't know this. I've got my rubber doll here, right? But when you're just holding your baby for the first time, right? We do these things naturally, like hi, sweetheart, right? And we're hoping for that eye contact and all of that. But again, these are just easy, gentle. You see that rotational movements, they can respond in any direction. But if you find that a child's back is arching, you know what I mean, and you're trying to force or support this, that they're doing this, you're finding again, like my rubber doll, the arms are going down, this low tone. Again, they're different words for those red flags, but the movement that we're looking at is rotation, and that's what you want to keep an eye on for your baby. But the more tools that you have of just not looking for something that's wrong, but being proactive versus reactive in your baby's care.
I will always need therapy even to help get equipment.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, will you always need therapy, but even when you do get equipment, the better your rotation is, and this is where I'm so happy you do horseback riding as well. A lot of people wouldn't even consider getting up and over that horse just because of the way that their body moves. But when you're getting new equipment, one of the first things they're checking you for is not that your parent necessarily can pick you up and just put you in the chair, but how you transition in and out of that equipment. We do it all the time, even buying a new car, for those of us that are at that level of driving. It's how we get in and out of the car, but the way I set my seat and this, that, and the other versus somebody else, they will change that, but the change needs to be more specific, the equipment based off of a person's ability to rotate, to get out of the situation or get in it.
So what can you do at home to support rotation? Give your baby plenty of time on the floor. Let them explore movement at their own pace. Don't rush into seats or standing. Use gentle, guided movements like slow rolling, diagonal reaching, or playful twisting with toys. Follow your baby's cues and create an environment where movement is safe and encouraged. Rotation is so much more than movement.
It it should be safe and so forth. Again, no matter your child's age, you can start by doing the newborn movement assessment. It's free. It's a step by step. There is a bit of a wait and see. Don't jump on milestones, but at the same time too, when you're looking at your baby and how you're moving with them, you really want to make sure that you're noticing these gentle areas of rotation. If you are using words like stiff or floppy, hyper or hypo, those are concerns that you should be more vigilant over, and really make sure that your child is not progressing into stiffness versus they should be progressing into rotation, rolling over, but they also shouldn't be progressing or not progressing into a floppiness, or where you're starting to see a wear pattern in the hair or a flat head, plagiocephaly. Again, these are things to look at and note, because I know a lot of people are like, well, I gave my baby floor time, they shouldn't be like this. But they shouldn't be in distress. And again, the tummy time gets overlooked because not wanting to let their babies be on their bellies, especially in sleeping. We're talking about supervised time of working with your baby, and tummy time really too can be just as something as this. Just here, and I've got my baby on the baby's still doing tummy time, and I'm right here to work with my child, especially when they don't have the head control. There's lots of clever ways of giving your baby experiences of movement. But that's what it is, experiences with movement. It's very important.
When you support rotational development, rotation is so much more than movement. It's a gateway to exploration, communication, and independence. When you support rotational development, you help your child unlock the ability to connect, move, and regulate in powerful ways. Coming up, we're going to talk about the infant sensor mat, how it works, what it shows, and why it can help detect delays long before traditional milestones are missed.
Absolutely. The infant motion sensor mat is something that I've invented, created. I want it to be available into all hospitals. I'm doing it in combination, which I've also invented or came up with my own artificial intelligence language, a software. Yep, based off of all this rotational and mathematics. Everything we're telling you too is math, it's physics. The solar system rotates, the Earth rotates, the moon does not, so it's not a living organism, but we are. And what you're looking at with the motion sensor mat is again little keywords that we've said here, that neutral, that ability to respond with certain movements. It's very important for your baby and your child and their development. Again, what I just want to quickly go over with natural delivery, the baby will present through with rhodation in the vaginal canal. Now, what people don't think about with let's say C-section, there's variations to it, whether it's a full term, the baby had contraction, or if it was planned, or underweight baby, preterm, prematurity. There's all different concepts that go in there. These are part of what you're looking at to see where your child has any hospitalization. Rolling over should happen about 2.5 to 3 months. That's when a child is just like, oh, I see something, and all of a sudden they're on their belly. Versus, if you see a struggle, again, they're trying to roll over versus just doing it. They're trying to kick the leg out. So you'll see a tush go up. Again, they might come to midline, or worse, or here they really need to come to midline, around the 3 months when they're starting to bring something into their mouth, let's say. And crossing midline is when they can, again, they're not going to cross midline and reach over and grab something just yet, but they're going to like look for the light, even though the light's 8 feet away, but they'll still try and grab it. And that crossing midline, and you'll see it in their eyes at this point, where the eyes will cross and do those in that, and that's why the vision is so important. Grabbing the feet, again, crossing over, grabbing the foot, opening up that pelvis. Coming to sitting is when you come to not independent sitting. At 5.5 months is independent sitting, where you can prop your baby down, they sit. But at 6.5 months, they literally should be on their backs, go to reach for that light, and all of a sudden they're sitting up. Right from there, then they can get into all fours. A big misconception where rotation breaks down is a baby rolls to their belly and now they're pushing up like a push up to try and get into all fours. It's not the same thing. I should be able to sit and go into all fours, not roll, push up. Push up is very difficult, takes a lot more muscles. And then crawling. So you're into all fours and then you're off and you're crawling. And again, you can see this in paperwork from the government, who said, well, we couldn't figure out why there's so many different types of crawling. So they just sort of took it out as a milestone. But crawling is really important for your reading. Reading is, again, rotational movements, crossing midline. All these kind of simple skills that show up in your baby will continue. But again, we can find much more information and we can continue this conversation, but it's really necessary for your child. But this is what we're talking about, is to bring awareness to these things in our podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks again for listening. If this episode connected some dots for you, share it with another parent or practitioner. We'll see you next time on Rock the World with Kay and Michelle.
Thank you. Yeah, you can see lots with us with Facebook. I'm at movementlesson.academy, but most of all, just like we do these podcasts, I'm very much about being proactive. So I review videos for free on as well on my group for Movement Lesson for parents and practitioners. Be aware of your child's development. It's part of who they are. It's part of your family, and just enjoy your baby. But it really is, in our books, from our experience, we're about being proactive, just not reactive, and coming into it later and trying to catch up. Just we're trying to teach you how to just be on top of everything. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.